You're listening to the Yahoo Finance Small Cap Show, powered by Agoracom.com, the web's leading small cap portal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Al O'Grady, and with us today is the president and CEO of New Dawn Mining, Mr. Ian Saunders. New Dawn Mining is an up-and-coming gold exploration company with a number of interests in Zimbabwe and South Africa. The company has 3 mines, 2 production facilities, and has a workforce of over 800 to take advantage of these opportunities. New Dawn Mining trades on the TSX under the symbol ND. That's N as in Nancy, D as in David. Mr. Saunders, welcome to the program.
Hi, Al. How are you?
I'm fine, Ian. How are you?
Great. I'm fine. And thanks for having me on the show again.
Yes. Always our pleasure to chat with you, Ian. Let's jump right into this. Ian, date of today's recording, Tuesday, May 5th. Yesterday, New Dawn announced that you anticipate to actually increase the mining output by more than 50% from 700 to 750 ounces of gold per month to around that 1,200 ounces of gold per month mark. How are you able to do that, and what sort of impact is that going to be having on the company?
Great question, Al. But basically yesterday's news release that announced these figures, essentially the state of the release was that we're moving back into a full operational mode in our operations in Zimbabwe. So when we discussed in late February, New Dawn, its assets, its opportunities, and what we think, there were a number of changes in Zimbabwe that we alluded to, and these have basically worked themselves through to the point now that we have been able to deliver our gold, get paid for our gold, and are starting to ramp back up to where we are. So what we see is between the 700 to 750, which we've been operating in the last sort of 6 weeks or so, to the point that we get to the 1,500 to 1,200 ounces per month in September this year. We're basically essentially getting back to where we were as a company prior to the extreme economic difficulties in Zimbabwe. At $900 gold, costs around the 450 mark. This is going to be a significant cash flow issue for us. And from that, we'll be able to fund a lot of our exploration and ongoing mine development.
Okay. In that same announcement, it was stated there are plans for further production increases every 6 to 9 months. How high is up? How much longer and how much further can you go with this, Ian?
Well, what actually happened is that whilst Zimbabwe was unwinding over the last 2 to 3 years, and we were being paid a combination of Zimbabwe dollars and US dollars, we deliberately and strategically invested as much of the Zimbabwe dollars into the operations before they got devalued by inflation. We took a medium to long-term view of the company, and we built the asset base whilst maintaining a fairly steady production profile. This was a very deliberate thing. So we overdeveloped the mine, put it into mine infrastructure. So even when we shut down in the early part of last year, we're in a situation where we could get the production from the 14,000, probably to about the 22,000 to 25,000 pounds mark, per ounce, annum per ounce mark, and with little incremental capital. It's just a matter of time. So what we see is that the phase 1 of our upgrade, which goes beyond September, will probably go through March, April of 2011. In other words, we think we can do this for at least 2 years and getting us, as I said, to the 22 to 25,000 ounce mark. Okay,
let's talk a little bit about the bigger picture, if you will. Where you are in Africa, there's something known as the STERP program, STERP. Briefly tell us what that program is and also what sort of impact that's having on the company.
The STERP is an acronym for Short-Term Economic Recovery Program, and this is basically a 12-month program put out by the new government in Zimbabwe, the unity government in Zimbabwe, to try and get the country back onto a sort of sound economic footing. The difficulties in Zimbabwe the last 2 to 3 years, we've discussed them, they're well known by many investors. But this program basically has laid the platform for the whole economic recovery of Zimbabwe. And important in this is that mining is targeted as one of the major focuses and drivers of the economic recovery in Zimbabwe, and in particular gold mining, because the price is so strong. So the significant changes that were made for gold mines per se is that we went to position from being able to only sell our gold inside the country to be able to sell it outside the country, so we now control the revenues. And previously, Zimbabwe paid, as I said earlier, a combination of US dollars and Zimbabwe dollars, but now we are paid 100% in US dollars. There's no compulsory submission of US dollars to the government. So we are seeing 100% of our revenue in a stable currency at spot market prices. And obviously, as these high prices start to filter through, it'll start to benefit our company, it'll start to benefit the country, and we're pretty optimistic with this.
Okay, I guess by the sounds of it, the STIRT program is Zimbabwe's little version of their own economic stimulus package.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Moving on, you have an interest in the Turk mine. What's your take as to what the maximum potential is over there? I know that property has 3 separate mines. Fill us in on that one.
Yeah, the Turk mine is our major asset. You know, we first invested in the asset in 1996. We put probably between then and now $40 million into physical property, plant, and equipment. We've got a large resource base. And essentially what we've done in order to ramp up the production is to treat the mine as sort of 3 operating mines or sections. So we can right-size the asset, we can right-size the management and controls to keep efficiency, because that's really important in our type of mining environment. And then we will be able to maximize the output. We think at this point that the Turk mine could probably produce ultimately in the region of 40 to 50,000 ounces. But as you know, today's targets will be different to tomorrow's targets, and I think that we'll move towards that in the next couple of years.
Okay. In my introduction, I said you had interests in Zimbabwe and South Africa. I think we've really focused our discussion more on your Zimbabwe efforts. But I also understand you're looking for other opportunities in the region. What's your plan in the grand scheme of things, whether it's Zimbabwe, South Africa, or any other area for that matter?
Yeah, New Dawn is basically a Southern African-focused precious metals play. Why Southern Africa? Because, you know, the cultures, the norms of doing business, the legal environment, the regulatory environment is very, very similar. It's sort of old Anglo-Saxon. And so from Tanzania downward is sort of the areas we look for the opportunities. And as well as the additional ground that we have in Zimbabwe, which we're quite excited about now, and we're starting to get some work done on that. We expect the 43-101 report on that in the next sort of 2 to 4 weeks. We have a geological company looking at the targets there. And we have a pipeline of projects that we're looking at in South Africa, and some early stage stuff looking a little bit more north of Zimbabwe into the areas of Tanzania and Zambia. So, you know, in this environment, there is a lot of opportunity. A lot of companies do have good assets, but they don't have access to capital. They don't necessarily have access to operating skills. And obviously with our cash flow from our operations, a recovering share price, a recovering market, we believe that we'll be well positioned to take care of some of those opportunities.
Ian, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but I would like to ask you this question. I talked to a lot of presidents and CEOs of small mining companies, et cetera, and maybe for the retail investor that's having a look at your story right now, and maybe they're having a second look at your company, what really sets you apart from the guy down the street?
Look, I think if you look at New Dawn, you look at our asset base, the fact that we're in production, we've got physical property, plant, and equipment that can increase that output quite significantly without having to go to the market for additional capital is very important. But also what we think sets us apart is that if you just look at, and you did a search, there is no other company that is a main board listed, whether it's TSX, New York Stock Exchange, AIM listed company. So no main board listed company that is gold focused and Zimbabwean focused. And we believe that if you like that as an investment jurisdiction, we really are the only company that you get that kind of platform. Sure, there are other people with investments in Zimbabwe, but you know they might be multi-mineral, or they may have, you know, Zimbabwe may be only one part of its portfolio. But we certainly set ourselves apart and define ourselves like that.
Okay, very good. Ian, that's it as far as the formal questions are concerned. As always, I leave my guest with the last word. Any final thoughts, anything that you'd like to add right now?
Yeah, Alan, just thank you for your time today. It's always nice to talk to New Dawn. We just urge all investors that are interested in gold and interested in Africa to look at New Dawn. You can see our stock price is recovering. We still think it's got quite some considerable way to go. And certainly, you know, the markets are recovering, but the markets recover and Zimbabwe continues its recovery. We've got a double whammy, and that's going to be a double lift for us, and we think that's a compelling investment opportunity. Okay. On that note, Ian, I want to thank you very much for your time and sharing your thoughts with us about New Dawn Mining. Thanks, Ellen. Have a good day. Okay, thank you. You too. And New Dawn Mining trades on the TSX under the symbol ND. That's N as in Nancy, D as in David. And you've been listening to Ian Saunders, President and CEO of New Dawn Mining, on today's Small Cap Show, produced by Agoracom. I'm Al O'Grady. Thanks for joining us.